Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War 2024 Halloween event. So this event came out at a little bit of a weirder time compared to normal. It's coming out on a Friday rather than at Monday reset. The first time I believe that this has ever happened. The main reason for this, of course, is 2 weeks from now. How long the duration ends up lasting for goes exactly until the day after Halloween. So it kind of just works out as it goes all the way through the holiday season. So as far as this event, we have to use pure purple teams and just keep fighting over and over again. You get 3 battles per day, though it is highly advised to spend 50 gems per day in order to essentially double the amount of battles you can end up doing. Every 5 battles, you could choose if you want to stay at the level that you're at, go higher, or if you're already higher, go slightly lower. Generally speaking, you should always be going for the higher one, as you'll end up gaining more overall points. The only real exception to this is if you're earlier on in the game and you find that the stats are starting to get too high, but even early on in the game, you do want to make it at least slightly higher, as it'll just gain you more points as per battle, which is very important in order to get all the rewards. If you do keep going up the entire time, you'll be able to go get all of the important rewards with 50 gems per day. These include the Witch Armor, if you didn't already get it. This does come back every single Halloween, so it is probably one of the more skippable ones if you don't end up wanting it. The Orb of Power, which is also decently skippable, however, it is the cheapest a Orb of Power ever is in Gems of War, costing only about a few hundred gems in order to get a Orb of Power. Very, very, very cheap. If you don't currently have Zolgoth, Stellarix, or Enrage Karandera, the 3 power orb mythics that you can currently craft in Soulforge, or want to try stocking up for a 4th whenever a 4th eventually does get released to the game, definitely advised to do so if you don't already have them. The Haunted Doll, which is the new troop, and the main thing here, it ends up exploding a bunch of purple gems and then heals to full and inflicts terror on all enemies. This is from Midnight, so it will have some terror synergy in the future with its own kingdom. It's a very stall-heavy option, having a bunch of mana accumulation, and it stalls through its final trait, a 45% chance to dodge, the highest skull rate in the game, while also having 25% spell reduction, basically being in a mixed tank of spell reduction and skull dodge rather than spell reduction and skull mitigation, which in a lot of cases can actually be a little bit better, because if you dodge skulls, you also dodge all the on-skull effects. So if they have like freeze, death mark, other similar things, this will actually completely dodge it if it was to trigger. Only big issue with this is, given that she has no immunities unless you end up blessing her or something similar, you will not be able to go and keep these traits if you get stunned. So is pretty susceptible to stun, as a lot of tanks are, but that's pretty much her biggest downside. The other one is she's pretty slow. You're basically never going to be using this for the most part in like a meta team, but it might come into play, particularly in the Midnight related restrictions, and potentially, depending on what you have, even in Construction and Mystic. But yeah, it's going to be a really slow win. Really good for defend teams in the future. If we ever have a good reason to defend, like when Guild War gets re-released or something similar in the future, as currently you don't really set defend teams, but I could definitely see this being used as a tank in like a green, blue, or some kind of other restriction where you actually end up needing one. But for the most part, it's a pretty gimmicky troop that's perfectly fine, just pretty mid-range as far as its use cases. And of course, finally, the pet. The pet you want to get 6 times. The main reason for this is getting it 5 times will give it max, which will give you 5 stats to everything on the Haunted Doll that we were just talking about. And on top of that, you also get a golden version after you end up doing it the 6th time. You can also bypass this by spending money, but for the most part, you don't really need these. You'll have plenty enough. But doing this, I believe, 5 times for what, 10 bucks ends up giving you pretty much an auto max of the golden one. But you can easily earn it 100% for free just by buying the 6th time for 700. The first 5 are 100 each, and then the golden one to get 1 copy of it will be 200. So far, none of these golden pets have ever come back, other than through money offers, so it's probably the highest priority to get is this 7 times for 700, as this will come back a few months after the event, so probably sometime early next year. This will come back next year for Halloween, and Orb of Powers, of course, is just a resource, so they're always available for obtaining. But yeah, anyways, let's go and just show a few battles then. Of course, we are at the very low range. It is day 1, but make sure to be keeping up with this daily, as you do not, basically, you replenish your sigils up to however many you have. So if you're at 0, you'll go back to 3 every single day, so do make sure to use your daily sigils, because if we were to, like, let's say not do our battles right now, the next day we would still be at 6 out of 3. We wouldn't get like an extra 3 on top of that. So this is a daily that you do have to maintain the entire time, which is the only slight downside of it. Also keep in mind, you can use the gold mark one whenever. It gives you a flat amount. It does not boost based on all the other benefits, so you can literally just use it immediately. And that includes any that you might buy through it. If you do end up going down the money route, all rewards can easily be obtained without spending a single cent. And even if you don't spend 50 gems per day, you can still earn quite a bit just from the very free battles. So as you can see there, the very first team we have here, you've probably seen it a billion times. It's pretty standard quick kill Stellarix team. Let's get into some of the lower rarity teams then. And I might even show them in both of their variants, as a few of these have a couple different options that you can end up running, as they're basically a structure of team rather than necessarily a specific team necessarily. So let's go and get all these in. Actually, it's kind of funny. We have the Void Dragon right here. I was actually about to go put that in for one of them. Should I do the Void Dragon Mirror? We'll do it with Immortal Ossifer first since we have it pasted, but then I'll go get the Void Dragon. But that is one of the routes for this. So, of course, this team that we're doing now is very similar to the first team, just with a lower rarity structure. So instead of using Stellarix as our main kill option, we are going down the Immortal Ossifer route. I also switched it into a little bit of safer thing, putting Wand first. But basically, it still ends up working out the exact same. Go for your insta-kill. You have a bunch of extra skull spam afterwards, and you end up getting him from the PvP season. And since we just had a fresh PvP reset, should be a little bit easier to end up getting him. So, of course, one other thing that's really good for this, which we can actually see in the opposing teams as well, is the Void Dragon. I opted to not have this for the copy-paste one, though I guess I could technically just put both in there. But the main reason for that is, of course, it is a bit harder to get specifically the Void Dragon Mythic than it is to get Immortal Ossifer. Immortal Ossifer is a lot easier to obtain. However, if you do have this Mythic, really solid for this game mode this week. All you have to do is just cast it. It'll have a decent chance of extra turning, which it did there, which we can't quite see since we just got the kill. However, we did indeed extra turn, so we can just keep spamming it over and over again. Really similar to Element Grim, except it doesn't need a burn, which is nice. The only downside is sometimes it'll create slightly less gems, but overall, really solid, pretty loopy into itself, on average creating like, what, 11 gems per spawn, and can do up to 12 or 13. It's just a little unfortunate if it does like double, triple 9 in a row. It also gets a skill a little bit, which can help you get to the later fights if you need just a little bit more damage, and is even a little tanky. Anyways, now let's go on to the low rarity teams. So there's a couple different ways you can run this. I did it with both do 2 damage sources. However, depending on what you have, you may have to double up on one or do a different AoE option, just depending on what you can end up scrapping together here. So for this final team here, we're running basically an AoE spam with Reflection of Good. Reflection of Good is 250 wins on the Archmage's hero class. We were running that on the other one, so it would go a little bit quicker. However, on this one, we're running Elementalist just so we don't die. If you are in early game, it's really tanky, just helps keep you alive. Really good final trait with the Entangle and everything. Plus, if you have it to level 40, ends up gaining Barrier every Brown. And while we're not going to be taking Brown too much with this team, you can end up switching up the banner and going the Black Manacle route. So if you don't have a Reflection of Good or don't want to get 250 wins on it, if you haven't already on Archmage's hero class, you can just go down the Black Manacle route. You'll have a little bit less mana accumulation, but you'll have substantially more damage. And as far as our damage sources, we're going with Queen Titania and Alana. Queen Titania is a legend. However, if you don't have it, you can double up on a lower one like Atlanta or any other purple thing that you have that can hit all enemies. So, also I believe from Alithia, if you don't already have it, let's see. I believe Alithia, yeah, you can get this. So if you don't have it, you can end up going down Alithia Savitor. You can get this pretty easily just by throwing a couple hundred Chaos Shards at Alithia in the Underworld, and this will kind of replace you out with your AoE option if you don't have a Queen Titania. And Atlanta you get for free from completing out Divinian Fields Kingdom, so really easy to get, which then just leaves the Leprechaun, which unfortunately pure RNG from Glory Gem Guild chests. However, it's an ultra rare, so it's pretty easy to obtain. You get that with Empower, it just gives a bunch of mana at the start. So that does mean every single one of our teams then is a, what's it called team? a Leprechaun team, but yeah, he's just so good for mana accumulation. Obviously Thrall as well, but Leprechaun just gives you that nice little starting bit. Ideally, we want to get enough purples here so we can go straight into our Reflection of Good. So for any of you who don't know what Reflection of Good does, is it gives you every single possible positive status effect, and you're normally going to want to do this on Hero, so you can re-give it Barrier, make sure it's all tanky, and then just throw all your damage sources that hopefully all have full mana. Unfortunately, we were one short on Atlanta, but I believe we did set a double yellow banner here, so whenever she's short, you just go into yellow. We have +1 off a banner, and of course +1 off of herself, so she can get up pretty quickly. And of course, we can also go down the, I guess the other route that we end up mentioning, go Black Manacle. This would be the super cheap route. The more expensive route of this would be go like double Queen Titania instead of the second Atlanta, or of course if you have mythics, use stronger mythics or put mythics into the team. But let's go with the super cheap one then. This is like Olithian Savitor. How do you spell it? Olithian Olithian. Now, wait, oh, I'm under weapon. I'm like, wait, why is it not showing up? So this is like max cheapness. Black Manacle you get just from leveling up brown and purple hero mastery. Olithian Servitors from Chaos Shards at Alithia, which you can get at any point. Atlanta's just from completing out Divinian Fields. And Leprechaun, hopefully you have, as it's probably the most annoying thing to get on this team if you don't end up having it. Worst comes to worst, you probably have a Thrall laying around, so just put First Thought Thrall. The only problem with that in early game is you're probably going to die pretty quickly. Not in these early fights, obviously, it's pretty easy to survive. However, in the later fights, it could be a little bit of a problem if you end up having a Thrall First Thought that gets like 2-shotted, depending on what your stats are. But of course, same premise as per usual. Get your mana accumulation up, kill. This one might have a little bit of a mana issue since your Leprechaun's the only mana accumulation route, But easiest fix for that is if you have enough magic, just run a Thrall. Okay, and here we can see the level up thing. You'll have 3 options normally if you're already leveled up. The one over to the left will be a downgrade, which you never want to click. The middle is staying where you are, which you only want to do if you've upgraded enough to a point where it's starting to get too hard for you at your current level and everything to be really killing out the battles. But ideally, you want to be clicking the power up every single time. This will give you more of the shards per battle and just make more value per sigil that you end up using for this mode. And whenever I say you'll need like 50 a day in order to end up completing out everything, I'm generally referring to, well, always referring to powering up every single time. So do keep in mind, you might have to do slightly more than that if you still want to get all of the rewards while still going at a lower level range. But for the most part, you always want to be leveling up so you can get more per battle. So now we're getting 21 per fight rather than the normal 20. Anyways, guys, that'll be a rundown. I'll go show all the teams for what we just went over will be in the description, as well as all the variants I end up showing. So if you want to go and copy paste any of them, they'll be in the description as well as the pinned comment. Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Halloween holiday, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and good luck with the event and the Vault event weekend, of course, this weekend, which we'll be doing on stream later tonight. And definitely a great time to be farming. Actually, I didn't even show that at all, but you know, it's not really the point of this video. But do not forget that it is a Vault weekend reminder, Vault event right over there, and it will be lasting all throughout this weekend. Where am I trying to get to? I hate this menu. I still hate that this like collapsible menu makes no sense. Anyways, but yeah, this event will be going on. Of course, the Halloween event we already mentioned will be going on for the next 2 weeks. Doesn't show it here, but it shows on the other menu. And of course, all this weekend for the next 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Sunday will be the Vault event weekend. So great time to be farming Explore, and pretty much anywhere where gnomes reside, but mostly Explore Quick Kill with the quickest team you have that can kill it in order to get a bunch of free loot. And this was actually the compensation Vault event weekend that we got from some of the issues with the previous patch, particularly on console. So we have another Vault event weekend in 2 weeks from now. So a lot of Vault event weekends this month. Anyways, guys, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching.